I wonder if Black Lightning, Jefferson Pierce, I wonder if he ever has to worry about power outages. Interesting that during a lightning storm, he can just be like, you know what? On. Or if his kids don't get off in time, I wonder if he can just sneak around and be like, you know what? Off. Go to bed. Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to Nephilim Entertainment. I'm your host, Metatron Hero. Thank you for tuning in and following along with my coverage of Black Lightning. And this is episode 2, LaWanda, the Book of Hope. Alright, so we're dealing with a little bit of a character development kind of episode. It's episode number 2, so we're just sort of, reaching into the depth of these characters and try to get a better understanding of them. So, first of all, we got Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning, and what looks like possibly is he's in pain the first episode. It looks like his lightning abilities or electricity abilities are kind of like surging through his body. So, I'm thinking, when I'm first watching this, is that he's in pain. That these powers are trying to fight their way to get out of him, and he's having to keep him contained, keep him bottled up. That's his struggle as a hero. So I figured that'd be a nice little idea of a character. Have a character whose powers actually take a toll on him, which could also explain why maybe he retired, because he couldn't handle the pain or the pressure anymore being a hero. So he is right now completely clueless to what is going on with the hotel where he rescued his daughters from, and apparently the community is up in arms. They want something done about this. Well, the police aren't jumping on it as fast as they like. People are still up in the air about Black Lightning. Is he doing this for his own personal vendetta? Why, first of all, why? And I love how someone points out, Black Lightning just rescued your kids. Like, you special. Totally oblivious to the fact that maybe there's something to that, but luckily they don't dive too much into it, so it spares us the hope. With Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning? Wait a minute, you two look a lot alike. Is something going on here? Yeah, because that just would just drive a truck right through the whole plot. But we find out from the daughters that apparently looking at Black Lightning is sort of like looking at a spotlight. It hurts their eyes to look at his face. So, yet he still feels like he needs to wear a mask. I mean, first looking at him was like looking at a spotlight, but then you gotta take into account he still wears a mask. One of these things just doesn't belong here. Yeah, okay. But let's, refrain from finding loopholes right now in the story. So we do a little bit of a development in these next couple of segments in the story. We're sort of finding out about Tobias and Lala's relationship, if you want to call it that. Apparently Tobias is big dog, and he sees Lala as sort of a child that he has to nurture and take care of. And he believes strongly in tough love. And that includes basically injuring this guy and then turn around and applying pressure to said wound. So that is a little bit much. And we also find out that apparently he has something against black people for some reason, referring to them as darkies, which I'm surprised that they can throw racism in here and nobody bats an eye to it. But hey, it to me just makes you want to hate Tobias even more. Gotta love bigotry. With this, also, we get a little bit of an introductory towards LaWanda. Apparently, she was a former student of Pierce Jefferson, and maybe had some ties to Lala. We don't really look much into it, but her daughter has gone missing, and apparently she is turning tricks at the hotel. And there's not really much they can do about it. And Henderson even points out that, hey, there's not much we can do. So that's going to be an interesting development there, considering that LaWanda wants her daughter back. Henderson is trying everything he can in his power to get things done. But the one person that would really help out their cause would be Will. Apparently, Will is a no-show. He is gone missing. Where's our little wannabe stalker nowadays? Does anybody know? Does anybody know where he went? Apparently, he took off like a bat out of hell. He jackrabbited people. That's right. He split town. Maybe. Did he? Maybe. But I love how Pierce thinks that he can go and confront Lala, but at the same time, Lala likes to send a little boy to do his dirty work. And it's even more ironic that Pierce even calls him boy to his face. And I think that's an interesting sort of dual storytelling right there, because you have an actual child going and confronting Jen and threatening her with a squirt gun versus Pierce actually going and confronting Lala man to man. It's a very interesting sort of duality there. You have a grown man who has a child to handle his business, whereas you have a man actually going and confronting a child to handle his business. So you see a lot of duality between these two characters. You got Lala, who is the man, the basically man child pretending to be a man, and you got basically Pierce, who's doing everything in his power to refrain from being an overpowered man by trying to handle this with as much dignity and maturity as he can. He even gets knocked to the ground with his eyes glowing from the power of black lightning, and he just refrains from doing anything. Whereas some people would probably showed up, probably a scene later, electrocuting half the people that were on the street right then. But you gotta admit, Pierce Jefferson really contained himself. And I want to point something out. I don't know if I covered it in my last video, but Alyssa. We find out that Alyssa, the character, is following suit with the comics. Because I said last week that they were referring to two Black Lightnings. Well, this one is actually referring to the comic books because Alyssa, the eldest daughter, is apparently gay. What does that mean as far as storytelling? Well, I personally think it's great for character development. Not that, but it reaches an audience that the straight audience can't necessarily reach. And any good storytelling makes diverse characters to where you can actually relate to these characters. Now, as far as me being a single white male who is straight, I can relate to some characters better than I could, say, the gay characters. But with them now making Alyssa gay, it makes her better suited and makes her a little bit more of a character that people can relate to. She is currently dealing with a crisis of having to sort of fit her social life along with her romantic life. And it raises a question. Why are you trying to keep the two separate? Why not put them together? Is it out of shame? Because from what I can tell, the whole family knows. And they're all willing to accept it, and treat her is no different. So that's not the issue. What could be the issue of why she doesn't want to blend her two lives together? Poses a great question. And I know discrimination is going to pop up because I've seen it to where a lot of people are afraid to be open about their sexuality because they're afraid of persecution. I've seen it many, many times. And, girl, we all love you. I know I do. I'm disappointed, but be who you were meant to be. That's all I can say. But moving on from that point, we actually see somewhat of a back and forth between Lynn and Jefferson. We sort of see is that Lynn is afraid that Jeff is addicted to his powers. So instead of that whole earlier scene where it looks like he's struggling and in pain, what if it's not pain he's feeling, but a rush, both figuratively and mentally, and he's starting to feel somewhat of an addiction, maybe an attachment to using his powers. that right there would add a whole new twist to the story. Not to mention add a whole new twist to any kind of superhero. A superhero who doesn't just enjoy using his powers, but gets a rush out of using them. That is a big, big character development right there. Huge, major. So, we find out that a lot of the reasons why Lynn and Jefferson split up was simply because he would overdo it, and she didn't want the kids or her to witness his downward spiral, which, whether we got that in the first episode or not, I see it as more of a in-depth look, but at the same time, we kind of knew all this, so I'm not really sure if that's a good point to try to reiterate. Not only that, but I mean, you're taking that story context, you're taking that dialogue, you're taking that sort of story-driven, what-if kind of thing, and beating us over the head with it. I really don't see a point. I mean, yeah, we know that him and his wife split up. He chose to be a superhero at the time. She didn't want to witness it. They split up, blah, blah, blah. But it's been years since he's been a superhero. It's been 9 years, actually. At some point, which, granted, I can't speak from personal experience, but you think after 9 years, it'd be something where they would reconcile earlier, but they're just now starting to reconcile, so 9 years is a long time. I mean, a more patient man probably would have walked away by now, but, who am I to judge? Jefferson is going to pick who he feels like he should be with, and right now, currently, it's Lynn. However, I also see somewhat of an attached role with the secretary. I did not catch her name. Next time they cover her in an episode, I will be sure to catch her name and talk about her. The secretary, to me, seems like she's not just being a mother hen, but is there a possibility of maybe a love triangle being developed here? Because you got the ex-wife who knows about his powers but can't accept them because she sees them more as a hindrance and a burden, as opposed to the secretary who sees Jefferson already as a somewhat hero and a strong character. I'm just wondering how she's going to feel about the whole Black Lightning thing. That poses a very, very intriguing question right there. But with all this, we finally catch up with our boy Will. And Lala actually is willing to get his hands dirty. I am surprised. This right here is a new development. I don't know if it was because of Jefferson Pierce's involvement or if he's more afraid of Tobias and therefore he wants to handle it himself to make sure it gets done. But we actually see Lala get his hands dirty. He shoots Will, kills him, of course, and takes care of his business. So with all that, we have Pierce actually going to go and have to save LaWanda from making a bad choice. LaWanda wants to go walk right up to Lala and confront him about her daughter and try to get answers out of him and possibly even get something that is incriminating to take back to the police to get Lala stopped. Pierce feels like it's a bad idea, that we should let the authorities handle it. Not Black Lightning either, because he's trying to refrain from using Black Lightning. He feels like the authorities should handle it. Okay, fair point. So, with that, we see LaWanda looking like she's going to walk away. That Jefferson Pierce saved her life, and that all's well, that she's going to go about her way, Jefferson will go about his way, Lala will get caught eviction. But we'll have to see. On a side note, though, we see Jen actually get with her long-term friend and actually get her a nice little boyfriend. Dude looks like he's pretty capable. He's also capable of making her happy, capable of taking care of her, and capable of being there for her. I'm more interested in seeing his character development because to me, he seems like he's going to be a very positive, sort of level-headed force for Jen in her life. Because we both know that after last week's episode, and with all the threats and looming impending doom that she might be facing later on, it's nice to see that she'll actually have a strong anchor outside of her family. Because it seems like her mother and father are dealing with their own demons. her sister's struggling with her life, so it's nice to see somebody within Jen's life that's going to actually sort of maybe anchor her to a better tomorrow. But yeah, the whole LaWanda thing doesn't pan out. Our girl decides she's gonna go and confront La, but that didn't end well. That ended up being 3 shots to the chest, which I don't know what possessed the writers to make that happen. I don't know. I've never been part of gang violence. But if a woman is aggravating the shit out of you in public, I don't care if it's part of your neighborhood or not. I don't care I don't know what that was all about. But he shoots her 3 times in the chest. First of all, totally unnecessary. Second of all, it makes too much noise, too much of a mess to clean up. You're going to have the cops on you at some point. I mean, was it just an illustration of Lala's character as being irrational and sort of a child trying to be in a man's position? Or was it the writers trying to grasp at straws? I mean, I don't see the point in this at all of her getting shot in the chest, killed. Yeah, it does definitely spark sort of a notion of no one's safe, and it does give Pierce sort of a motivation to maybe put back on the costume because he does not handle her death well, especially since it illustrates the fact that his wife said in the last episode that you save more lives as the principle of Garfield High versus being Black Lightning. And this illustrates the fact that he, as Jefferson Pierce, cannot do shit. Black Lightning, maybe he can make a difference. I just don't see that her dying was a very logical thing. Whether it was just a writer desperately trying to give something to motivate Jefferson Pierce, or if it was just an illustration of Lala's character as being a loose cannon, someone who's unfit to lead. But I think LaWanda, either way, LaWanda's death was a complete waste. She's not much of a character, but for the most part, she was a struggling mother trying to find answers and trying to get to her daughter. I can understand that. So I feel like her death was not needed, whether it be from a writer's point of view or a story point of view. But here's something interesting. Did not see coming. Jen is apparently taking up drinking. Only for a short while. Then boyfriend comes in, saves the day, convinces her that drinking's bad. It does make an interesting development for his story because we find out he is a track star. He wants to use track to sort of get away from the town and take off. Why do I see an impending doom for him where he ends up in a wheelchair or worse? Usually when people depend on something so much that once it's taken away, you leave a gap and a hole for there to be sort of a crisis for this character. In other words, boy is obsessed with running, you take away his ability to run, I'm seeing a crisis develop in the future. So I'm just going to stick with that story and see how that turns out. But we have Lynn versus Gambini. Gambini feels like that Pierce should throw back on the costume, step back into sort of the Black Lightning facade. Lynn feels like that it's more of an addiction, that it's only going to lead to his downward spiral. Gambini doesn't feel that way. He feels like that he could be both Jefferson Pierce and Black Lightning, both for the better of the community. So I'm going to side with Gambini on this one. I think Lynn, in a way, is wanting what she feels like to be safe, what she feels like to be normal, to stay on the sidelines. Gambini's comfortable with it, Lynn's not. I think that's the biggest issue with Lynn, is that she doesn't like being on the sidelines. She seems like the very authoritative, very take charge kind of person, because we see with the kids are dealing with a crisis and Jeff's not there, she likes to take up the mantle and say, here, I took care of things. I'm sensing her character has got a major control issue kind of thing going with her, and I'm also sensing that she likes to just have her hand in all the pies. So it's interesting to see that development going, especially with Gambini sort of being like his Alfred slash, well, I'm guessing right now more of an Alfred, because I can't really think of any other characters that we're sort of on the sidelines helping our superheroes. But Black Lightning, is he back? We we see him go through a hotel, or basically just smacking around everybody, smacking around people, punching people in the face. He makes his way up to Lala when the cops show up. It says evening detective, which by the way I love his voice augmentation. It sounds like static graveling against sound itself, so I love the sound. It's all gravelly and it's all tough sounding. I mean, to me, it sounds like, what would happen if Stephen Hawking's decided to have a tough guy version of his voice. Love it. But that right there shows sort of a bewilderment of Henderson, which he's always sort of seemed like he's had a level head and understanding the way things are going, to actually see Black Lightning once again. To me, it just kind of looks like it threw his world upside down. For a minute, I thought he was going to bust out Black Lightning's real name, but he only looked at him in bewilderment and shock as Black Lightning makes his getaway. So, when that happening, Tobias makes one last trip to the story. He actually goes and pays Lala a visit in prison. I don't exactly know what he said. I do know that he actually got onto him for killing a woman, someone's mom. That sounded a little personal for Tobias's character. You like killing somebody's mama. He said something, I didn't quite make it out, and picked him up by his throat and proceeded to strangle him to death. Lala only lasted 2 episodes. Whew. 2 episodes longer than what I thought he should, but it's interesting to see what Tobias's main objective is. Besides control of the neighborhood, it almost seems like he's got a personal vendetta against anybody who's mean to the mamas. I might like Tobias's character after all. And then we get one last shot of Anissa. Yeah. She pulls off the strong hero thing, throws a guy over a couple of aisles when he's trying to rob it. All for some Tylenol. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the whole Anissa thing. It's going to be pretty interesting to see her character development, especially since her character we know has superpowers. Alright, up next for Black Lightning. We're seeing a major riot going on, and apparently Black Lightning is going to get himself a new toy. Possibly something that channels his energy and turns his ability into a sniper rifle. So it's going to be interesting to see, riding in the streets, Black Lightning somehow gets tangled up in it, and we're seeing a possibility of Henderson actually going to go on a manhunt for Black Lightning. Should be interesting. But my question for y'all on this week's questionnaire is, are y'all glad to see Lala gone? I personally think his character is good. It's a good thing that he's gone. Not just character-wise, but story-wise too. I don't like his character at all, especially since he's so depraved and willing to kill a woman just because you find her annoying. But also, I don't really see much of his. I mean, if you wanted someone killed in the story, call Lala. Put Lala's character behind the gun. That's about as good as his character is going to get. So, killing him off makes it a little bit more of an interesting character development. Not of that, but you just don't want someone going around killing other people's mamas. Just saying. But it's going to be a wrap for me. Be sure to drop me a thumbs up down below, subscribe to my page, and stay tuned to the end of the video for more content. Be sure to leave me a nice little comment. Let me know what you think of the show, what you think of my video. But I'm Metatron URL, and you're watching Nephilim Entertainment. To all you daydreamers and creators out there, keep your heads in the clouds. Peace.